So here's an interesting story. You know, people are they just thirst for realignment news. ESPN confirmed that the Mountain West initiated mediation to discuss lowering exit and poaching fees with the Pac-12 and departing Mountain West schools. And so, this is something that really has kind of been under the radar because they're trying to figure it out, but it is right here, realignment information.
I'll correct you. I think it's been under the radar for you. I think it's been under the radar for some people. I don't think it's been under the radar at all if you're Oregon State, if you're Washington State, if you're Texas State, if you're Boise State or any of those schools. I feel like this has been very much a talking point for the last few months. It's just, not as much national interest as the Big 12 and what they were going through for a couple of years was. But I see plenty of people out on the West Coast that have been eagerly awaiting some finalization in this whole ordeal. I mean, the Pac obviously went and added a bunch of schools a few months back, and now it's a matter of some of those schools, like a Boise State leaving. It created this situation with the Mountain West where they want their exit fees. And so then lawsuits arise, and you start fighting over money and who owes what, and you've got schools saying, well, we don't think that your exit fee holds up, and we're not paying jack, and that's where we are now. But it did seem like it was sort of at a standstill if you were looking at it like we mostly probably were, not on a day-to-day basis. And so now we've arrived at a point where it's continued to go on, and I think everybody's looking at their bank accounts and going, how much longer do we want to do this? Like, how much more money do we want to spend of the money that we actually have? Because we're not Ole Miss. We're not Michigan State. We don't just have, like, this big bank vault that we can rely on or this huge amount of money rolling in. We just saw J.D. Wicker from San Diego State say the other day that the Pac's going to have their TV deal here pretty soon, or their media deal, and so that'll be good news in terms of the money. But, this is the situation that needs to be cleaned up for everybody to be able to move forward and kind of know what's what. So, Gloria Nevarez has talked a big game, very much, giving the impression that they weren't going to back down. But if it's true that they initiated that, then I think that says something, obviously. And I do think money's got to be involved in here somewhere. I mean, I don't think the SEC, I don't think the ACC, I don't think the Big Ten want to, as much as, the first and third names that I mentioned there could sit in a courtroom probably forever. I don't think they want to do that and just burn through money. So I know that the Mountain West doesn't want to sit there and just burn through money trying to get this, solved one way or the other. So the best route is for both parties, I think, mediation. And that way you can, tie this loose end up and know what's what and go your separate ways. So I look at this as a positive if you're a Pac fan. And I think I don't know, mostly probably a positive for most everybody. I think it would, though, depend. You'd have to drill down on, like, each individual school to know whether this is good or bad or whatever. But certainly if you're Pac fans, I think this appears to be good news because the other sides who initiated it, you've already taken some of their best schools, and now you want to finish the job and get complete and get your league moving forward.
Yeah, I think mediation is always, to me, the most common sense place when it comes to these things, because it's where, like with FSU and Clemson and the ACC, they've been forced into it, and it's really where in mediation, because you're there to try to figure out an agreement, as opposed to if you're in court, you're trying to win, right. And so here, you're trying to win as much as you can, but that you're in mediation, it's not going to be like, ha, suck it, we got it. That's not really how it's going to be. And the Mountain West probably smart to say, like, all right, let's make a concession here that we're not going to go for all of it. They both really need to move on and start making their conference what it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's slowing them both down to be in the fight, like you said, Craig. So might as well let's just skip to the end where we know that this number is going to come down. Let's find that number.
Well, and to his point,
I've got some huge news. We have officially found the unlock to optimizing performance for young athletes. Now, for the past 15 years, I've been training quarterbacks, tons of camps, tons of college and NFL players. But for the last 3 years, my team and I have been on a mission to solve the questions that I was getting about what should young athletes, in particular athletes with developing bodies, what should they be consuming? I came to the conclusion that I think nutrition is actually the #1 opportunity as an athlete that you have to make an impact on all the work that you're putting in. Speaking directly to the parents, this is probably the #1 opportunity you have to make a huge impact on all the work and effort and resources that you've been putting in to give your young athlete an opportunity to chase their dreams. We've created Thread Performance to solve that problem. We're launching this summer with a suite of products that are absolutely going to change the game for your development. This is just the beginning of our mission to revolutionize sports nutrition specifically for young athletes. Give @Thread Performance a follow. The link in the bio, there's an opportunity to sign up for the waiting list and be the first to grab yours.
Like, I know that, some Michigan fan doesn't really care about this. And, I know that there's probably Michigan fans that didn't care about Utah and BYU and Cincinnati and whoever else, but it does kind of feel like once the Pac fizzled the way that it did kind of take a little bit of a breather, but this has been ongoing the entire time. And so I think, the writing's on the wall of like, we're going to burn through all this money. Now, I do think there has to be some penalty for poaching those schools. Like there's no poaching penalty. Well, of course you say there's no poaching penalty. I don't know what the legal documents say, so I won't pretend to be a lawyer here. But I do think there has to be some amount given.
Have other conferences had to pay?
Yeah, but it's always mediated down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Oklahoma and Texas. Remember, they're going to pay $200 million to have to leave because of what
they had to pay. Should other conferences who poach another conference have to pay? That's why I don't think the SEC had to pay Big 12. Yeah. But the conferences have had to pay other conferences that they take teams away from.
Well, this isn't the Pac. This is the schools that have joined the Pac that are mediating these lawsuits. This isn't the Pac-12. This is Boise State.
Yeah, you wonder if the Pac-12 will aid them in any way. Maybe they will with the money they're going to get.
If they'll what?
If the Pac-12 will aid the schools in any way with some of the exit fees.
I mean, I guess that depends on the details of the TV contract because I don't know how much money that will be for, or if there will be any amount that you could use for something other than what all is coming down the pipeline, just in terms of the regular spending, the house settlement, if that goes all the way through, and those types of things. So I don't know. I think if they're able to, then obviously that would make sense. But I mean, you've already seen Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Utah State, San Diego State, all the states make that move, and they clearly want to go and get more, and that's where the Texas State comes into question, or a Tulane, or a Memphis. And, quite frankly, I know we probably don't have the same the Memphis folks that were around like 5 years ago, but I'd be happy as hell for them if they were to get an invite somewhere. I mean, you talk about a school that's been begging for it for a while now, and I know I've seen a good contingent of Tulane fans that, especially feels like they've got a little bit of something going on with their athletic programs, making a splash in football. That they'd like to move on as well. And if the new Pac's all of a sudden spreading to Texas and Louisiana and whatever, I mean, that's notable. That's definitely notable. So you've seen all sorts of rumors in terms of the possible targets, but this has been the big thing hanging over both. You can't really move on until this gets resolved. If you're the Mountain West, you need to, are we getting this amount of money, or what money are we getting, and then what do we then go and turn around and do with it? And if you're the Pac, you need to know, is this lawsuit over with? What amount of money are we giving away, if any? And then, boom, let's go get our extra football school to meet requirements, and then let's go get our extra 2 schools that we'll add on top of that, whatever that might look like. And we can all just move forward and deal with the 1,000 other issues that are already sitting on our desk that is not getting the time it needs because we're working on this lawsuit. So
Tulane, Memphis, USF, and UTSA were the ones who were targeted by the Pac-12.
Yeah, and then I brought up Texas State with Sam just because I saw that. Gosh, what was it? I think it might have just been like a random Pac fan or something was bringing them up, and so I've seen them swirled around enough. I got to be honest with you. UTSA doesn't do much for me if I'm looking at it from a Texan perspective, but out west maybe it's a little bit different. But I mean, Texas State is not a big school. Neither is UTSA. But
it's a big enrollment school.
It's big enrollment, but it's not big audience, big. you don't see a bunch of Texas State T-shirts when you roll around. You see a lot of TCU and Texas and A&M and Baylor and maybe even SMU at this point. But Texas State's like 8th or 9th or something along those lines. I do think, though, as far as an up-and-coming school and, a big enrollment, just a fun town.
In between Austin and San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got its upside. So I would say that about Texas State. And, G.J. Kinney obviously makes them a lot more attractive, but you can't go get a school based on a coach because let's face it, he's not going to be there for much longer.
He's given them absolute tremendous lift. Absolutely done a great job with
for little old Southwest Texas State, the party school that it was. I mean, for people that don't know, it was not before it was Texas State. It was Southwest.
Yep,
and
Southwest
it was the
Texas
biggest
State.
party school, Playboy school, like all that jazz. And then they tried to we'll become Texas State, and they got all organized in that regard. But it's still Southwest Texas to me.
It hasn't stopped. I mean,
No.
You know what the T-shirt fans are at Texas State? It's got like a beer mug on the front.
Yeah, exactly. So,
or one of the things you tried to suck down one day when you lost a bet. What was that?
I think it'd be cool for them. I'd be happy for them.
Yeah.
I just don't know how big of a splash
Yeah,
it
I would be
necessarily
too.
makes.
Yeah.
But whatever's best for them. I'm not arguing against
if
it.
I'm the Pac, I'm trying to get into Texas as much
Yeah.
as I can.
Yeah, you
so,
would be smart,
So
yeah.
UTSA and Texas State make the most sense to me
Sure.
in those regards.
I remember when I was in college, high school, my senior year at Randolph. And again, you got to remember, I was back before anything was invented. But I thought about Southwest Texas State because a lot of people, Randolph was a smaller school, but a lot of people were going there, A&M, some were going to Texas, and that was about it. And so I ended up going to Tyler Junior College because my father suggested, listen, you don't know much of, even though we'd lived there before, for like a short amount of time. And I was glad I did because then I was able to branch into Stephen F. Austin because of the broadcasting degree, et cetera. But yeah, Southwest Texas State, man, that's a big school. It's got a little momentum right now with GJ. He's put them on the map with what they've done with the Bobcats.
Yeah, so looking at it from as a guy who grew up in Texas, that doesn't necessarily knock my socks off. But I do think for that league and for trying to get into Texas and for up and coming brands that have a lot of potential, especially if you give them more resources, then I'm interested in what Texas State or a UTSA would look like. And I'm sure fans of those schools, especially schools that have moved around a bit, like a UTSA, I'm sure you just want to get somewhere and just sit there for a little while, right? You just want to find a home and have hey, this is our home for a while. And so, the Pac is trying to get to the finish line so they can round out their requirement and then go add what they need to add. And the Mountain West obviously would like to move on, so they're going to go to the meeting table or the mediation table and try to knock something out. But I think this is a positive sign for both parties as far as the fan bases. They just want to get on to the next thing and not deal with this lawsuit anymore.
The Northern Illinois football move to the Mountain West is official. That became official. That will start in 2026 too.